All right, well, good morning, everybody. It's 10:31. We're going to get started. I am Heather Hoops Matthews, joined with Casey Robinson. I am here in McClellanville, south of the Grand Strand, and Casey is actually in the Myrtle Beach area. She works out of our Myrtle Beach office. We both work for NP Strategy. I shared my screen. I think you can see our other teammates whom we love working with, and we're blessed to serve clients across the Carolinas. Today is actually the third coaching session of 4 that we committed to do on Monday mornings for the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce members and really anybody else who wants to join. These are recorded and they can be watched later on the Myrtle Beach via the Myrtle Beach Chamber and also via our website. We have set up sort of a template to follow through each week. So we talk about some best practices that we've seen the week before. We talk about a short to-do list that we give everybody every week. And this week we added on how to pitch your story to the media in a crisis. Casey and I are both former working journalists here in South Carolina. We have a total of 5 former South Carolina journalists on our team. And so we know what it's like to be pitched and to also pitch. So we are going to cover that at the tail end. And so if everybody's ready, we're going to go ahead and get started. I am going to, stop sharing this. And I am going to share a different screen with a couple of videos for everybody to watch. Okay, we are going to start first. We talked about leveraging social media to just do what you can. Tell your story any way that you can so you're out there and people see what's going on. And I thought we're going to watch this in a second. I thought this video by Ocean Lakes Family Campground was great. Basically, it just shows them getting ready and talking about what they're doing to welcome everyone back. And, you know, as you probably have seen, it looks like we are starting to see that finish line for those of us who run. When you're in a race, the beginning you're excited, the middle is a drag. And when you see that finish line, you can press on. And so let's see if I can share this. Hear it. Casey, give me a thumbs up if you can hear. Wasn't anything fancy. That's something that you can do with your iPhone. Remember, you just need to hold it vertically, horizontally, not vertically. And then we can help you share some ideas for editing software. But I thought they did a really nice job. Makes me want to go see how good it's going to look when we all can go back. The second thing that I'm going to share today is something that I saw on a friend's Facebook feed. And I thought, again, this is a group of people doing what they can, how they can. And this is some postmasters, some post office employees out of Maryland. And it's clear, they are delivering during the crisis. And so this is the video they put together. Okay, now I see Casey smiling. I can't see all of you, but you may be smiling when you see that. You're really going to smile when I tell you over 151,000 people have viewed that. When you look at it, we're looking at the share from Regina, but I looked on some other ways to look at it, and it has been shared a whole lot. And it's just a creative way, again, to say, hey, we're out there, we're doing what we can. Let's see, let's stop that, and let's share something else here. Okay. As we get started, I want to encourage you, if you're not active on LinkedIn, to get active on LinkedIn, especially if you're business to business. And here's why. We serve a lot of manufacturing clients, big ones, 800,000 people on site, some with 60, some with 400, but anyway, a lot of manufacturing clients. When they have COVID on site, they have to shut down, clean, and then have everyone come back. And it's critical for those that are essential that that's done swiftly. And so one of our sites in a rural area, not too far from the Grand Strand, they had the virus on site, they shut down, and the plant manager was telling me what an excellent job the cleaning crew did. And he went on and on about them. And so I reached out to the marketing director of the company on LinkedIn and said, hey, do you have any information that you can send me so I can share it with my other manufacturing clients in case they get this? And I have yet to hear back. Now, I could try to track her down some other way, but instead I'm just moving on. We're fortunate in that we haven't since that one site, we haven't had it again where they haven't been able to find someone hyper locally. But there's a lot of activity online in general in social media, but now is the time to get active on LinkedIn if you haven't been. So I encourage you to do that. Okay, so let's get started with our to-do list that we have talked about each week. Well, we're not going forward. Hang on one second. Let's do this. See if we can trick it. Okay. There we go. Every week, we've encouraged you to reach in, to reach out, to retool, and to reinforce by giving back. Reaching into your key stakeholders, reaching out to others, retooling your organization during this downtime, and reinforcing by giving time, money, whatever you can, even if it's a word of encouragement, to our nonprofits and community organizations. So reaching in is fairly easy again. If you've done it the past 2 weeks, I want you to add 3 more. So you now should have a total of 9 key stakeholders that you have reached out to directly and you've spoken from your heart. Ask them how they're doing. We can't wait to tell you welcome back if it's you have people into your organization. And I want this list to be something that you continually do once a quarter. You're going to have 12 key stakeholders by the time you watch all 4 of these. And once a quarter, if you continue to nurture those relationships, they will be very strong. What you see at the bottom of the screen is a video that I'm going to play of the Casing Group. Now, this is a privately owned company. They serve insurance brokers. They have sites across the country. They have a young leader, and he had never done a video before. But during the crisis, the team decided they needed to do something, and he needed to speak from the heart. And so I want you to see how they combined speaking from the heart with telling how they can help with what they have.
In these uncertain times, people across the country have turned to technology to stay connected, be it church, family, certainly the work environment. The Casing Group's tried to stay on the forefront of technology for years now. If you have an employer or client who is new to technology and looking for a simple, clean solution, Beacon, our proprietary platform, may be a good fit. If your client or prospect is more tech savvy, Employee Navigator allows a customizable solution for both employee enrollment and onboarding. Regardless of the solution that you choose, we're here to serve you. please reach out to us. You can find all of our team members through our website, and please know that we're praying for you and that we're confident we're going to get through this.
I think William did a wonderful job of just being who he is. If you know him, it's completely reasonable and like him to say, hey, we're praying for you, and I'm sure we're going to get through this. And he spoke from the heart, and that video has been very well received online, and it exemplifies their team. So reach into those key stakeholders, speak from the heart. Reach out. Again, leverage social media to connect with others. That can be a key group, or it could be wider in the public. I've noticed since we met last week that I have seen a number of posts like this on social media. Delta says, for now, we're dreaming of the days when we can get out and explore again. When the world is ready, where will you go next? Look at the number of comments. That's 658, and that was fairly recently after they posted it. And then to the right is Carnival Cruise. And, you know, they obviously have had to cancel cruises, but they're trying to message that we have options for you. That's forward looking, again, forward looking, trying to make those connections. Now, you know, for those of us who are just the average Joe, we can again do what we can with what we have. So I don't know if you knew, I didn't know that this is National Park Week. Clearly, the parks would have been wanting people to come visit and get out and see and go on tours, but that can happen. So you're going to start seeing a lot of virtual tours. I saw a very cool video last night that maybe we'll share next week from Boone that was shot with a drone from people who were on a tour, showing everybody what it would be like to go on a tour. And it was a really fantastic video. You missed the composting website seminar if you want to do that, but I snapped that last week because I thought, hey, you know, people are eating, you know, tons of food at home with tons of leftovers. And, you know, DNR probably thought they need to know how to compost all that, which I thought was smart and sharp. And then finally, I love this post. I think it was yesterday from McLeod Farms. That's in Chesterfield County near McBee. It's a very large operation. Peaches, Biggs is the restaurant on 151 if you've ever driven by it. But the new birth of the corn, I thought really was a great visual for where we are in this crisis. And that's what they have going on right now. And that's what they're showing. Now, they have been showing a lot of strawberries throughout the week as well. But they've done a nice job of doing what they can with what they have. And so continue to leverage social media. People are hungry for content, and let's give it to them. Now, retool. We've talked about retooling, and we've said to consider how to adapt to the new normal. And now I'm saying be ready. Like we are almost at the emerging phase of this, and you need to be ready for the new normal. So what will you unveil maybe that you haven't already, or what will you stop doing that you used to do that you've now realized really isn't that necessary anymore? Think about it and think about how you've operated during the day. I've heard some of we're owned by a large law firm, 200 lawyers, and I've heard some of the lawyers say, wow, you know, our office space isn't as necessary as I once thought it had to be to practice law. So we're all learning during this. So you need to be retooling. And I'm going to give you an example here. We've talked about how 2 weeks ago, anyway, we're all unsure of time days. We launched the Buzz with Bernie Maybank, a former revenue director in the state, and it's focused on economic development. Hugely successful. We were shocked. Now it looks like we may launch a second podcast because of the great response to the first one. And you'll see the photo there. Bernie's on the right, Kara, the co-host, is on the left in the pink, and then Emily is looking at us. She's a teammate. She's the producer. And there's a videographer in there as well because they are both audio and video. And we found that to be successful. But there is another sector that wants to start a podcast, and so we'll probably do that. And what's more, in this retooling that we've done, we've had a prospect reach out to us and say, hey, how much would it cost for you guys to do a podcast for us? Now, that blew me away because that is not really what I was anticipating. I was anticipating that we would increase the brand of the firm and we would be associated with it, though not, out in front, to just start a dialogue about reigniting our economic engine. Instead, somebody else wants to do a podcast, and so we had to quickly whip together a proposal. So, again, here, jump out of your comfort zone to offer a different service. Maybe it's a continuation. We talked about Wild Birds Unlimited during doing curbside pickup. Maybe they continue that after the crisis, but retool so you can be better when you emerge. I want you to please continue to reinforce by giving back. As we all get going and we have fewer and fewer pennies, maybe, community organizations are going to have greater needs. So I want you to please give what you can. I've seen online a number of people give their stimulus checks to organizations. A number have given them to Harvest Hope. And it is a blessing to see people do what they can. And I know that that money will go farther than they ever imagined. So if you don't have money, give time. If you don't have money or time, give a word of encouragement. Message them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, give them a ring, write a note, and just tell them good job. Casey, I think you're muted. Let me see. Unmute you. There you go. Oh, okay. Here we go. Media relations in the midst of a crisis. Can you really do it? Yes, you can. Let me give you some quick tips to get started. Consider the new normal for them. Reporters have been reassigned. No longer is the sports reporter doing the sports only. He or she is now covering the virus. State House reporters covering the virus in different ways. Environmental reporters covering the virus in different ways. So consider that there are a lot of reporters out of their area of expertise covering this virus. Also consider, just like during a hurricane or other disaster, they're probably working more than normal. Casey, when you were at WMBF, Casey joined us in January, so you were there last year during a hurricane. During that crisis, how much did you work?
Oh, it's, we didn't go home. During Hurricane Florence, I was at the TV station working for 48 hours straight in the hurricane, and that's live shots, 10 every hour. Because there's no other content. So you're live on air 48 hours straight with that, but then it passes. But with COVID-19, this hasn't passed. This is still here. And so it's very difficult, as you said, people who are not used to covering normal news, who would be covering sports or the state house, are having to really figure out, okay, how do I do this?
Right. And they're working apart from their team. So there was something comforting for me when I was on the coast covering a hurricane, that I was with the satellite truck operator, that I was with a photographer, and sometimes a second photog, and we were together. Now they're all isolated. And so when we talk about you going into pitch, think they're in a different area, than normal. They're working more than normal. They're working apart from their team, and people at home have a lot of time to provide a wealth of feedback. It is exceptionally, Casey's laughing, I'm saying this nicely. It is exceptionally challenging to respond with grace when people tell you a number of things. I hate your hair, I hate your clothes, I hate how you said this, you're biased, you're this, you're that, whatever. If you've made everybody mad, you're probably doing your job right. But I have seen a wealth of feedback on news content, and just know that their jobs are really tough right now. So pitching a story during a crisis, here's some things that you need to think about. Number one, you need to choose the journalist, or I put journalists for a couple. I want you to do some homework and be strategic. I do not want you to send out a blast email because it's going to go nowhere. You're going to have to cultivate this pitch with someone. So do your homework. Know who is covering what area, maybe what niche that's hits where you want to hit, and be strategic. You need to tailor your news pitch to connect with the crisis or to prove that it's newsworthy despite the crisis. And it's going to probably have to be a really big deal to prove newsworthy despite the crisis. So let me tell you what we've done last week, effectively, thankfully, is we have a new lawyer who came from LLR, labor licensing, and she was at the forefront of telemedicine while she was there. And so last week, we pitched some news outlets to talk about telemedicine, because we believe that's one of the things that's going to last. Like my husband did his first visit last week. Another teammate's son did his first visit this week or last week via telemedicine. And so it is crisis connected. And the publication did an interview with the lawyer, and she found it so fascinating, the reporter did, that they are turning it into a long form piece. And so if we just done some blasts, that would have gone nowhere. We went right to a reporter who'd covered on business and legal before and said, this is a good story. You need to consider their deadlines and work shifts. Like Casey said, they could be working around the clock, or they could be shifting their days so they have 24-hour coverage. So watch some of their social feeds and you'll be able to see when they're active and kind of get an idea of when they're working, or you can reach out and ask them. But I was always surprised the number of people who would try to call me and give me a story idea at 5:45, and I'm trying to throw lipstick on to go live at 6. I can't handle that. So consider their deadlines. Be organized with your assets ready. Have the photos ready so they don't have to do the legwork because they don't have the time. Whether it's photo or video, have it organized, be ready. I've been reading more about virtual media tours, and we are pitching now to serve a company in Orangeburg County that's doing a really cool thing for related to the virus, and we want to help them tell their story, but we can't have a press conference there. So we're probably going to have a virtual media tour. So that's something to consider. And then I want you to contact the journalist how he or she communicates. Probably not email anymore. It's probably a message via Twitter. Most journalists are on Twitter more than they are anywhere else. Or you may text them, but I'm not sure they're sitting at their desks reading a bunch of email. Again, if you've done your homework and you've chosen your journalist, you're going to know that, or you're going to reach out and say, what is the best way? You get no response. You try different ways and watch how they communicate. What time is it? 6 minutes left. Okay, pitching a story during a crisis. This broke over the weekend. I'm sure it wasn't a hard sell, but it's connected to the virus. And this is, Disney is bringing back bedtime hotline. So if you can't get your kiddos to go to bed because your time clock's off and so is theirs, you can call this number. You can choose, one of the characters, and they'll hear a pre-recorded message. It got a lot of coverage over the weekend. And I put, if you can see where it says the Disney, a CNN headline right below it, this is the screen capture of the first couple lines of the article. And my sense was this was the pitch. Can't get your little one to sleep, especially being stuck inside during the coronavirus pandemic? The Disney bedtime hotline is here to help. I kind of wonder if that was the press release or part of it, because it was so good. Now, you also have to manage a story during a crisis, because sometimes negative press can come out about you during a crisis. So you need to, I'm going to give you an example that has been updated this morning. You need to monitor aggressively. You need to know who is saying what and where, not just in the traditional media, but online, on social media. We use sophisticated media monitoring software, Critical Mention and Meltwater, to do this. And we can still miss things if we're not really careful. So you have to aggressively monitor. You have to draft messaging or response with the global crisis in mind. You cannot be tone deaf to what's going on. You have to be calm and firm when contacting a reporter. Casey and I wanted to get the stories right, but occasionally we would be wrong. And you just need to be calm, deliver the facts. If I don't respond appropriately, then you go over my head to the news director. But try the reporter first. And you need to shape your own message, which is you may not get a correction in the news, but you need to shape your own message on social media. And here's how it is going wrong for one national brand. Wall Street Journal article on the left talks about Ruth's Chris getting $20 million of the money to help companies during the virus. This is outrageous, quotes one elected leader. In the middle, BuzzFeed talks again about a couple of large companies getting big sums of dollars when it was supposed to go to small businesses. Down below it is one of the comments from a share of the Wall Street Journal article. They are not that important. This is ridiculous. So I thought, okay, well, what's Ruth Chris have to say about it? I went to their Twitter page. Their last tweet at the time of this screen capture yesterday was 2 days ago. And what was the topic? Your favorite sides are back by popular demand. I don't think so. I think they probably should have said, we are a franchise with X number of restaurants across the country employing X number of people. We are not one big conglomerate. We are individually owned. But that's not what they're doing so far. Instead, what's happened this morning is Shake Shack has responded and said, you know what? We got $10 million, but we're giving it back because we have come to realize that there are a lot of small businesses who didn't get any money. So look in the middle on their quote. This is a quote from the company. Our people, meaning their employees, would benefit from $10 million, but we're fortunate to now have access to capital that others do not. Until every restaurant that needs it has had the same opportunity to receive assistance, we're returning ours. What's the social feedback? Look to your right. Again, I snapped these just moments ago. Mary Green, if you know her, she's wonderful, but she says, I don't know where a Shake Shack is located, but I'll be eating there before I go back to Ruth's Chris. And then down below, let's get a Shake Shack in Hartsville. This is just the beginning of this today. It is going to be painful. And my hope is that Ruth's Chris is going to get ahead of it and not be behind. At least try to shape their own message. So when you're managing in a crisis, you have to monitor aggressively because you can miss something. And when you're trying to pitch to the media in a crisis, again, you have to be real strategic and do your homework and know that it is tough for the reporters at this time. And they generally want to get the stories right. You have to just do a little bit more legwork to help them get it right. What time is it? We've got 1 minute. Next week, we're going to do the same thing again with some more best practices, and we'll have another special something. I'm thinking of having one of our good storytellers come tell you how to tell your story. Like what are the elements of telling a good small picture and larger picture story, and how can you gather those and shape your message and tell your story? If that's something you'd like to hear, let us know. If there's something else that you'd like to know, we'd be happy to bring someone else on. I could have Taylor come on and talk more about how to shoot and edit your own video if you'd like. But we will be back here at 10:30 next Monday morning. If there are any questions, you can hit that Q&A box, or apparently there's a little hand somewhere. Casey keeps a good eye on it for me. Let's see. Case, is there one? Let's see more.
No, I think I have not seen anything pop up quite yet.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I encourage you to press on, to run with endurance, the race that's before us. We can see the finish line, I think. And so if you have any questions, reach out during the week. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, same time, same place. We wish you the best. Have a good day.